Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Jess, and thank you for tuning into the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. I'll be joined by Suzie Cool in a matter of moments. Give us a call tonight at 412-575-2600 is the number. You can see the number right there, and you can see Suzie Cool right there. Thanks for joining me here tonight. Obviously, it was a big week for the Pirates, big week for the Steelers with rookie minicamp starting here today. But the biggest story this week was Derek Shelton getting fired after 5+ years. That happened yesterday. He was told by general manager Ben Cherington that he was out. Donnie Kelly's in for at least the rest of this season. He's guaranteed to be the manager, Kelly is, through 2025. And I think this is kind of an audition for him. And if it is an audition, it's a good first start. I know it's a long way to go for Donnie Kelly, but it seems like he has the clubhouse and the players on his side, and that's a good first step.
It seems like that's the response about Don Kelly in general, right? From players that he's coached before, teammates that he's had in the past, old managers that have coached him whenever he was a player. Everybody said that Don Kelly was a great guy, not just a great player. However, what he did for his teammates and everybody around him was why they really liked him. And it seems like he can bring that here to Pittsburgh, too.
All right, don't forget about our live poll question here tonight. You can just scan the QR code in the right-hand portion of the screen. You can see right there where Suzie is pointing. Do you trust Don Kelly as the manager of the Pirates going forward?
50-50.
Yeah, it's 50-50 right now. Need to see more. I don't blame the viewers that say that. But look, I know Donnie, nice guy, super guy. I know the players like him. They respect him. He played the game, drafted in 2001, had stints in the majors with Detroit, Miami, Pittsburgh. Made his major league debut in Pittsburgh here. Also coached and scouted for Detroit, and then got his opportunity when he was hired by Derek Shelton on his original staff in December of 2019, and has been here ever since. So I know the players like him. I know there needed to be a change. Something had to have happened with this team. They were 12-26 up until this point. Now 13-26 right now. Still one of the worst teams in majors, but you know there's still some hope over there on the North Shore, at least internally from the Pirates organization. Now, I don't have hope for a winning record, but hey, maybe we could see them turn things around. They need to have bats. They need to get bats. It's not really the manager. I have more blame on the general manager and the owner, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Bats will turn this thing around. Players turn this thing around. But I think Donnie Kelly can help put them in the right direction. Yeah,
and it's even just comes with decision making, right? Which I think Don Kelly kind of showed that a little bit tonight whenever he made that pitching change for the Pirates in the 7th. Shugart was having a little bit of trouble, so then, or not a little bit of trouble, he strikes 2 people out. He walks somebody. Immediately he walks somebody. Alex Verdugo is walking up to the plate. He puts in lefty Ferguson against the lefty. I think that that's a manager move. That's a big league move, right? And it set the Pirates up for success for then Bednar to come in that next inning.
I would have given Bailey Falter another inning, I think. He was pitching pretty well. You kind of ride him. And I do think the manager, it's a field position too. I've always said that manager responsible for 5 to 10 games a year, maybe. That's what I was told. 5 to 10 games a manager is responsible for. The players are responsible for the other 150 plus. But, I was questioning that, maybe leaving Bailey Falter in for another inning. But, he played it right there, and the Pirates ended up holding on. I didn't like to see what happened with Dennis Santana at the end there, but the Pirates held on to win this one 3-2.
They did. And honestly, how Bednar did was very promising. It looked like it was going to be one of those things where he gives up a hit immediately and finds himself in trouble. No, he strikes somebody out, gives up another hit, but then strikes out 2 more people. So 3 strikeouts for him. I think that that's looking good for him after coming up from AAA.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to point out, the Pirates haven't got any offense from the bottom of the order lately. I mean, and that's why they had 12 wins coming into today's game. But they get a home run from Jared Triola, who's batting like 150, and they get a home run from Alex Canario, who's also batting in the hundreds. They need production from the bottom of the order. They need these guys to hit above, where they're supposed to, and they're not doing that. They're actually hitting below. So if you start seeing these guys break out of their slumps, maybe the Pirates can string something together here.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to look at the box score still tonight. Just 5 hits across the board for the Pirates. So Fortunately, they had those 2 homers. They had a little bit of timely hitting with Andrew McCutchen in his double, so that hitting is still definitely needed, and maybe they're just lucking out tonight because it is against the Braves, and the Braves aren't doing that well this season either.
No, and you point out something, I always like to point out how many hits they had, and 5 hits, that usually doesn't win games, right?
But the fact that they got 3 runs off of that,
yeah.
Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, also good starting pitching.
Yeah.
That needs to continue to happen.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got to continue to a break. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our Xfinity Tweet of the Night from Major League Baseball. The Pirates get a win in Don Kelly's managerial debut, 3-2. Pirates improved to 13-26. So good all around there on the North Shore. I'd like to see more fans in the stands, and maybe you'll get to see that, Suzie, if they start winning. Winning will solve all the problems. They need to win like 13 straight, right? That would put them back into conversation. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
I don't think that that's going to happen, Richie. I think you're getting ahead of yourself a little bit there. But I say let's start with maybe a sweep this weekend. I said that before I left your office upstairs. Could it happen in Don Kelly's managerial debut?
Hey, that would be really nice. Look, you see that. Do you trust Don Kelly as the manager of Pirates going forward? 31% need to see more. But yes, 52% go with the Pittsburgh kid. Mount Lebanon, played baseball there. Went on to Point Park, then drafted by the Detroit Tigers. So, yeah, I want to see more of Donnie Kelly, but I like the guy, and I think he's a personable guy, and I think he would be a good fit with the Pirates. And, I hope he gets an opportunity here. All right, let's go out to the phone lines. And we got Chuck out in Uniontown. How you doing, Chuck?
Thanks. Good evening, Rich, Suzie. First of all, congratulations to Donnie Kelly. I told somebody thought I nicknamed him the Pope because he named manager on the same day as new Pope. But anyway,
yeah.
I still think Sherrington needs to go quickly. Because let's face it, there are not enough major league players on this roster.
Yeah, Chuck. Let me ask you a question. I agree with the Sherrington needs to go portion of what you said there. But do you let him go now with the draft coming up in about a month? I mean, I think that would be tough to conduct a draft without your general manager, and it would be hard to get another guy in here.
Yeah.
But also on the flip side, you don't want this guy conducting your draft,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a flip of the coin. You see, you know what Sherrington's drafts have been like. They've been horrible.
Yeah, they fell into Paul Skeens. Yeah.
Rich, Suzie, let me ask you this. Maybe this is not possible, but I was thinking, is somebody, either Jim Leland or somebody like him that has some experience in the organization, could come in, even if only temporary? And, I'm thinking about like back to 1985.
Yeah, you know what? I agree, Chuck. I think you need a veteran presence in there. I want to see Donnie Kelly get an opportunity, but you have guys out there like Don Mattingly, I think, and Joe Madden, older guys that maybe could come in here and help turn things around. Maybe that is what you need. But I do think you need a new general manager after this season. Unfortunately, Ben Sherrington doesn't have the track record right now, and if you're going to blame anyone, I think it's a Band-Aid by firing Derek Shelton. Yes. You got to blame Ben Sherrington for not developing these guys or maybe drafting the wrong guys. But you ultimately have to blame Bob Nutting, bad ownership. You can't do anything about bad ownership, and we've seen it here. They're on the verge of 29 out of, 33 losing seasons.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. Everybody thinks that firing Derek Shelton is, an answer. And maybe it's going to be an answer for a couple of more wins, right? However, there's a lot more going on with the Pirates organization than just Derek Shelton. I think that that's just the beginning of the moves that we might start seeing here with the Pirates, especially if Don Kelly doesn't work out, right? Because then maybe it's not a managerial problem. It goes above that.
Also with, Ben Sherrington not bringing in the right guys here, they brought in Tommy Pham. Look, everyone, I think, all Pirates fans hated that move. Why are you paying, $4-point-some million to a guy that's kind of over the hill? What does he do for this team? Give the young guys opportunities. You also are paying McCutchen $5 million, but he's maybe the most productive player, offensive player in this team right now, in the top 3 for at least. You're spending money on Adam Frazier. But look, here's the flip side to that. Is I don't think free agents want to come here. I asked Cherington that at the end of last season. He kind of skirted around that question, but I really do believe it. I don't. Why would you want to sign with a losing franchise unless you are getting overpaid?
We've talked about this every single week, and I'll go back to that one quote that he said during spring training, before spring training. He said he had time to make moves until July 31st, and I think that is just a terrible way to think about things whenever you have a franchise that needs moves in order to have a solid lineup for the pitching staff that you have. Even if you're not doing it for the fans, do it for the players that you have in this organization and for other people to finally want to come here.
Yeah, July 31st, you're out of contention, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're out of contention right now. On pace for what, 55
But
wins.
that's because they didn't make moves when they needed to.
Let's go out to Jack in Mount Lebanon. How you doing, Jack?
How you guys doing?
Doing great, Jack. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome, sir. Hey, Ben Cherington should have been the one fired. Well, both of them.
Yeah.
And Nutting should.
Can you fire the owner?
Oh, yeah. He can't fire himself.
Yeah. That's the problem. I know a lot of people want Ben Cherington out, and he even, he took the blame. He said he's probably most responsible. So if you're most responsible, why aren't you maybe relieving yourself of the duties and handing it down to the assistant general manager to maybe conduct this draft? It's an odd situation. You don't see too many general managers losing their job this close to a draft. Look, they've done all that prep, all that scouting. Maybe you have Donnie Kelly involved in some of these picks, or maybe the owner or someone else, or you call in some kind of advisor or something to kind of help with this, knowing if Ben Cherington's not going to be here next year.
I'm not sure how that goes, but I think it goes back to what we were saying about this being a little bit of a Band-Aid with Derek Shelton being out there. Cherington might be that issue with not bringing in the right people. Unfortunately, it goes back to show on Derek Shelton because he's the one who's managing the team that's out on the field. They think it's his fault putting together that lineup, but he's only able to make those moves with the pieces he's given because of Cherington.
Yeah, but I know you were on the show with me many times where we questioned some of his managerial decisions.
Yes.
What he did with the bullpen and certain, and always moving the lineup around. I mean, stick with something.
Yes.
I understand that you're trying to play like Moneyball and you're trying to do something different and you're trying to win, but, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Let's go back out to the phone lines. We got Bob out in Beachview. Bob Nutting. Is it Bob Nutting? How you doing, Bob?
Nutty Bob. But listen, I don't want to see them sell the team to somebody who's going to move it out. But Nutting, is he trying to be a businessman and make money and yet force the league to put a cap in?
I honestly, he voted against it, so I don't think he's doing that. But I honestly believe that Major League Baseball would never let the Pirates leave Pittsburgh. I really do believe that. I think there will be a work stoppage in 2027. Hopefully they get a salary cap and a salary floor. I think baseball needs a salary floor more than a salary cap because you have the luxury tax. But I just think he's a bad owner, just a bad owner. He's cheap. He's a businessman, and he's running it like a business. And when you are an owner of a professional sports team, you have to run it more as a fan. You're doing your fan base a disservice by running it as a business.
See, but he thinks he is running it as a fan because you got to think about it. He has the food, he has the entertainment, he has the beautiful ballpark. He just doesn't have the team to put in that ballpark.
Yeah, eventually you're going to lose the fans.
That's what I mean, though.
You can't go there to see fireworks every weekend. I hate bobbleheads. I don't want bobbleheads. I'm tired of all that. Give me a winner. I want to see a winner on that field. How exciting was it in 2013, 14, and 15? And then they didn't do anything in 16. This kind of reminds me of that. They didn't do anything this offseason. This was supposed to be the year that they were going to compete. And look, this rivals 2020.
Yeah, no, I agree. Trust me, whenever I was a ball girl, it was the times of Garrett Cole, Jamison Tyone, Tyler Glass. Now, that pitching staff reminds me a little bit of the pitching staff that's up and coming here in Pittsburgh now. And where did all those guys go? To World Series contending teams or World Series winners, because they wanted out of here, right? Because they didn't have the offense to back them up, and that is exactly what's happening here now.
Yeah, the Pirates couldn't pay him either, and they were all questionable trades, too. All right, let's go to Sam and Braddock. How you doing, Sam?
Yes, I'd like to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, let's do it. Go ahead.
Me, for one, I think they need to address the offensive line coach. I mean, this offensive line coach, he's been here for so long, he's not helping the players increase. They're decreasing, if you ask me.
You know, they've had injuries on the offensive line up front there on offense. You know, Broderick Jones is going to move back to his natural position this year. We're going to see Troy Fautanu. I liked what Zach Frazier did last year. Mason McCormick is a second-year guy. Isaac Seumalo. I think the offensive line is going to be pretty steady this year. Yeah, I know a lot of people have, you know, questioned Pat Meyer, the offensive line coach, but, you know, he's still under contract. Mike Tomlin knows more than I do or you do, and you decide to keep him around for another year. And you know, let's see what they can do, everyone in their natural positions together this year.
This year's definitely going to be the better sample size for this offensive line, because that was a huge talking point throughout the season last year, just how beat up the O-line was. You know, you couldn't see Fautanu play in his rookie season. So I think this year, if everybody's back and everybody's healthy, fingers crossed, then you make the moves on there depending on it.
Yeah, depth is a concern, but, you know, we'll figure that out later this year. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes.